Catalina and Craig Smoak.
All right, this 5 o'clock hour. Robert Smith, Fox Sports, will join us in 20 minutes or so. John Machota joins us now. Cowboys beat writer, columnist, covers it all for theathletic.com on SicEm365 Radio. John, what's it like to know that at this time next week you'll be needing a jacket maybe in the evening?
Oh, it is exciting. This is what I live for. Cowboys training camp. My favorite part about covering this team when it's out in California. Last year, really didn't do it for me going to the Star, and I hope that they don't ever get to the point where they decide to just have camp back at the Star. I hope they always go out there for as long as I cover the team. It's the best. Not only just the weather, but I don't know. You just feel like there's always some type of an optimism. Like people seem to be in a little bit better mood. You're out, you're close to the beach. Every day is great weather to be practicing football. Everybody just seems to be in a good mood. There's, the slate's kind of clean of whatever last season was, and it just seems like there's just good energy, at least for the first week. And then, if somebody gets hurt or something else happens, that's another thing. But, I'm really looking forward to it.
So I know that Bob wrote the team's worst move on the staff thing, but had that been you, what do you think was the worst offseason move the Cowboys made?
That's a good question. What did Bob write first? What did he have it as?
He said, let's see, not really doing anything at backup quarterback.
Yeah, that's certainly up there. I felt like, and I don't know how they could have done this, but you wanted to see a little bit more at defensive back. Demonte KZ is fine, Jaron Kearse is fine, and then, Calvin Joseph in the second round. But I think they needed to do even more than that in the secondary. So that would be, and if it's not that, it's defensive tackle for me. Like there's just not enough there at defensive tackle for me to think that they're going to be getting consistent pressure up the middle. You're expecting a late round pick in Bohanna to be a major contributor to kind of get things fixed, or even a third round pick in Osa Odigizua. So there's just some spots there on the defense that really, to be honest with you, it's stuff that we've talked about multiple times over the last several years. Like, where are the bigger investments at defensive tackle? Where are the bigger investments at safety and defensive back in general?
John, with Hard Knocks coming up, they'll obviously have the focus on Dak, and I'm sure Zeke will get his shine. But who do you think might be the under-the-radar surprise, maybe lower-level depth player, or maybe even a potential starter just personality-wise or story-wise that you think will catch the interest of HBO's cameras?
Well, I certainly think a lot of the rookies, this entire rookie class, I think, is going to be a big focus. Micah Parsons has a huge personality, and then obviously Calvin Joseph, with his musical background, I think for sure will be an attraction, especially if he's playing well. We didn't get to see much of him during OTAs and minicamp. So I would say that those guys would stand out, but those guys are at kind of the top of the list. One of the guys that, could be somebody that sneaks up on people, I feel like, and we've heard, I'm sure you guys have heard a little bit about this, but just from, rookie minicamp, some of the other off-season things, Nahshon Wright is a guy that, when he was taken late in that third round, there's a lot of criticism because of where most mock drafts had him going. But to me, corner is wide open. You're going to have three corners on the field most of the time, if not more. And so, you have Anthony Brown, you have Trayvon Diggs, you have Jordan Lewis, but are all those guys going to stay healthy? You're going to need more DBs that step up. And Wright is a guy I think that will be worthy of keeping an eye on because he does have the ideal size that you'd look for in your typical DB that would play in that Seattle-type defense that Dan Quinn was obviously coaching. So I think that's certainly somebody I think fans will be excited about. But I would say mainly those guys because let's be honest, there's so many guys in the Cowboys that could be main attractions of this show. It could be DeMarcus Lawrence. It could be Jalen Smith. As you mentioned, Zeke and Dak, of course. But I think CeeDee Lamb is going to take on an even bigger role this year. I think he could have a huge year. Not that he didn't have a good rookie year, but I think he could have a real big breakout year. And if he has a bunch of highlights and he's turning heads in camp, he'll be a huge focus of that show. And then, of course, we can pretty much almost throw all of that away if you just want to factor in how big of a personality and a big of an influence Jerry Jones is going to have on there. He's not letting those cameras come in there without having some shine himself. So there could be things that Jerry says behind the scenes and stuff like that and some interactions that we get to see that could steal the show as well. So basically, And giving you this long answer, I'm basically saying like this was a layup for NFL Films. This was a layup for HBO to do this on this Cowboys team because there is no shortage of storylines.
John, I think the Cowboys have been more forthcoming about guys that have legal issues than they are on why they don't value the safety position. They've never really given an answer as to why that's the one over every position on the field. Safety and I guess maybe defensive tackle would come in second, but they don't really care about who that is.
Yeah, well, when you ask anybody in the front office about it, the answer they generally give you is something along the lines of they do value safety and they value the top safeties, but they're not going to overspend for them. Well, that's what you have to do to get one of these top safeties because, one, there's not a ton of them out there in the league. And two, there's not a ton in the draft. Like, how many drafts do, 5 safeties go in the first round? So the thing is they obviously would like to have good safeties, but they're just not willing to spend the way other teams are. So they're not going to sit there and say we don't value safety, but the actions show you that they don't value it as much as the other teams do. I mean, it's just really clear. I broke it down, last year, just looking at every single team in the league and where, whether it be the dollars or the high draft picks they've invested in safety, and no one was even close to investing as little as the Cowboys have. And so, honestly, I think it would it wouldn't be as big of a deal if the defense had more playmakers. But it's the fact that the defense doesn't have a lot of playmakers and hasn't had a lot of playmakers for the majority of the last decade. And so then you look at these certain positions and you're just like, it just is an even bigger, glaring need where you're just like, well, you don't have anybody that we can really sit there and say, oh, you got to worry about this guy. Sure, there's the DeMarcus Lawrences and you think that Trayvon Diggs is going to be a guy like that, Micah Parsons, but, there's high draft picks in Taco Charlton and Tristan Hill that haven't, didn't do what you were expecting them to do. I mean, the case is still out on Tristan Hill. We'll see, but it's not looking, great right now. And in those positions, there were chances you could have taken safeties, but they didn't value them as high as those guys. So it'd be fine if they were passing those safeties, but the players they were taking were making a big impact. But when they're doing that, the players they're taking instead aren't making that big of an impact.
John, we know the Cowboys' offense should be obviously explosive, and obviously the health of Dak and even a couple offensive linemen make the difference there as well. But they're going to score points. They're going to put up a lot of points, score a lot of points. The defense last year was 28th in the league in scoring defense and gave up, I think, almost 30 points a game, 28th in the league. What does that number need to be worth not just enough to win the NFC East, but win 10 games or more and be better than just average?
Well, I mean, you could get lucky and be just a little bit better and get a decent amount of turnovers, and that could be kind of the thing that offsets it. But realistically speaking, I would think they'd have to get to at least, maybe 16, top 15, somewhere at the back end there. They're certainly not going to be a top 10 in scoring defense, but maybe they get in the top 15, top 20. That could be enough. And when I say that, I mean that could be enough if for the most part, everybody's healthy on offense, so that you are putting up 30, 35 per game, like they should. I mean, even if you lose one or two guys, they even have enough depth where they still should be one of the best offenses if that happens. So because I do expect them to be a top 5 offense, they got a chance at, if you go off the cliff that they ran off the first few weeks with Dak before he got hurt, they have a chance to be, they could be the top scoring offense in the league. So you combine that with them being in what I think will again be the worst division in the NFL to win 10, 11 games. I don't think you have to be significantly better on defense. You just can't look like, you're lost on plays far too many times. You can't look like, there's questionable effort, things like that, which I do think will get cleaned up under Dan Quinn. So if the offense stays completely healthy, if probably the defense doesn't need to get a lot better. But if the offense is just solid, then the defense has to be at least middle of the pack.
All right, so the DeMarcus Lawrence, the last couple of years, his numbers and sacks have gone down after those 2 explosive years. And let's say that goes back up and he gets back to 10 or more. Is Randy Gregory next in line for the number of sacks because of the obvious, or is Micah Parsons going to be someone that gets to the quarterback quite a bit, or is that asking too much?
No, I don't think it's asking for too much, because my vision for Micah Parsons this season is I think that there's going to be some plays where he's out of position or he makes a mistake or misses an assignment just because I mean, he's a rookie NFL linebacker, and he's got a lot on his plate. But you're also going to have those growing pains because I think he's just going to be on the field a lot because, as I just mentioned about them never really having a ton of playmakers, he brings that type of unique skill set that you can see him, even if he's messing up here or there, he's going to overcome some of that by making some plays that just other guys can't. I mean, there were certainly plays last year that Trayvon Diggs gave up that you were willing to be like, yeah, that sucks, but he also does this, this, and this, so we're not taking him off the field. So you could understand. I mean, one of the plays he gets praised for the most is when he came up from behind DK Metcalf and knocked that ball loose. Well, it should never even been in that situation. Metcalf shouldn't even have had a chance to even score a touchdown that easy. But you overlook it because of the hustle and his ability to make big plays. I think you're going to see that with Micah Parsons. So to answer your question, I wouldn't be surprised if Micah Parsons is, second or third on the team in sacks. I think leading the team in sacks might be asking for too much, but heck, maybe 5 or 6 sacks gets the lead. I mean, that's happened in previous seasons with the Cowboys, but I would say the clear front runners to lead this team in sacks are DeMarcus Lawrence, then it's Randy Gregory, and then third for me would be Micah Parsons.
What would have to happen for you to be able to envision no Leighton Vander Esch and no Jalen Smith in 2022?
Well, Micah Parsons just playing out of this world, being a guy that all season long you're like, yeah, this is probably going to be Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then Jabril Cox stepping up at least to a point where you're like, oh, I can see him taking on a bigger role next season. I'm hesitant to throw Keanu Neal in that mix because he's only on a 1-year deal anyway. So I'll say this. I don't think that both of them will be gone when you talk about Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of them is, just because you won't need to be paying all those linebackers if Micah Parsons plays well and Jabril Cox plays well. So, again, I mean, if this was, maybe in the 70s, you'd want 3 really solid linebackers across the ball, but you don't really need that now. You need 2 really good linebackers. And so if they think Micah Parsons is on superstar level and that he's going to be able to handle it and he's on the field majority of the time, you don't necessarily need all of that depth. And so I could see one of those guys being gone. But I think one of the 2 is certainly going to be back next year.
What is something other than clothing that you must take with you to Oxnard and Cowboys training camp?
Well, I certainly would say, I don't know, it depends on like how outdoors you are when camp isn't going on, because sunscreen's obviously a must because you're just standing on those fields and there's really no shade, and it creeps up on you because it's not super hot outside. And so that was one of the big things when I went there the first time that I got sunburned a little bit the first couple of days because I underestimated how long we were outside, because you're not really hot like out in the Texas sun. You're outside for just 10 minutes and you're just like, you can feel the heat of the sun. So that's definitely my number one. Outside of that, man, like you can get away really you can wear anything, like a t-shirt or jeans, or you can wear a sweatshirt and shorts. I mean, it's pretty versatile there. I remember the first year I went out there, I had dress pants on. That was a huge no. Don't ever do that. That was I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
I was trying to be professional. It was the first time the Dallas Morning News was sending me out there. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be professional with this and wear some nice clothes. That was a huge mistake. It's really just about being comfortable and just, enjoying it. But I don't think there's many other things you need to bring. I mean, you probably already got your sunglasses.
Yep.
I can't think of many other things. Just make sure you got that sunblock.
Yeah. He's out there in dress pants, and then Dale Hansen walks in like he walked off of a cruise ship.
Yeah, with his Tommy, his gold Tommy Bahama shirt, whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, John, we'll see you hopefully at some point during camp. It won't be the first week, but we're trying to figure out the timing. But good luck, enjoy it, and have fun. Thank you. John Machota of theathletic.com with us, covers the Cowboys with us every Wednesday in the 5 o'clock hour. When we come back, Robert